Why would you expect shit to change when you're lazy and sitting here on your ass?
And what you allow to come in your mind controls your fucking heart. Get up! A man's word right now doesn't mean shit. Imagine if you just have that in your life. You have the truth and you have honor. That everything that comes out of your fucking mouth, you do it. That you do the shit that you said you're gonna do.
Hello and welcome to the Warrior Week podcast. I am Coach Max. This is our coach, Coach Sam. Hello, Coach.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. Today, I want to talk about the enemy of sloth or laziness. And it really almost pertains to the intro where it says, fucking do the shit you said you were going to do. And yet, you know, you see the essence of a man letting the laziness creep into them. And the question becomes to me really is seeing all the men that have come through Warrior Week, the 8+ years of seeing these 8,000 men coming in, and you see this like wannabe burnout bullshit, this inability to understand what it really takes not to get lazy, not to get sedentary. And, you know, kind of how do you beat that? How do you fight that? How do you fucking work against that?
Yeah, I mean, in order to even look at a solution, we're going to have to spend some time in the problem on this one, because we as a society in 2022, we have a serious fucking problem. We have a serious manhood problem, and laziness has gone so deep into the soul of the man that we are having men today that are so lazy wanting being a man. The simplest example of that is I'm too lazy to have a penis, so therefore I want to have a vagina. We have a serious problem.
Yeah.
We have a problem where men no longer want to do what men are supposed to do or generationally have been doing. They don't want to work. And the data backs it up. In America today, as we're sitting right here in 2023, in April 2023, as we're sitting here, there's currently 30 million grown-ass men between the ages 18 to 33 who are currently not working. They're either playing video games and staying in their parents' house, and they either build a cabin in the woods and they think like somehow, somewhere Krishna is going to come and is going to save the world. They either have some kind of flavored oil on their nipples and they're sitting around and singing Kumbaya, hoping that the peace will happen, and they're disassociated from the entire rest of the world. They're either on drugs, heavily addicted to drugs, or recreationally just sedating with drugs. They're into video games. They're into receiving money from the government. They're into receiving money from their parents. They're into scamming their own wives. They're into having their wives work and him sitting home. That's the combination of 30 million men currently. And sadly, I don't have the exact data on this, but there are plenty of dads in that 30 million. I can assume there's plenty of dad because there are between ages of 18 and 33, which means the kids are watching all that shit, man.
Yeah.
So that's the consequence of laziness in America today upon men. That's not me pulling this data out of my ass. It's statistic data as of April 2023 of a population of men.
Well, and sometimes it does seem like, and it's not like pointing any fingers or anything, but sometimes it seems like men in general will take an easier road this day. So exactly how we entered this thing. Like, it's easier to just get a sex change. It's easier to not work. It's easier to have your wife do shit. It's easier to be socially acceptable, to go against the grain per se, not to do shit, not to do shit that's fucking hard. So the question really becomes is, why are men scared of being a man? That's really what it seems like it comes down to.
It seems that with what you're describing is that nobody wants to take the direct line. Everybody wants to get the crooked line, and yet the destination is still the same, right? But if you're taking a crooked line, God knows where you're going to be taking this crooked line and how many turns you're going to have to make so that somewhere, somehow you're satisfied. The bottom of the line is that you're going to end up in the same destination, which is dying. I'm going to die. You're going to die. He will die. And we're all going to this final destination. Why is it some men are taking a direct destination and others are just taking a detour? And in that detour, they seem to not want to do the work that is required to do directly.
Yeah, it seems like that's an easy way to go. It's easier to like find your way of not doing shit, not doing the same shit you're going to do, and being able to just go ahead and check yourself out.
Easier or stubborn. Yeah, it's a rebellion. It's a rebellion. It's a rebellion against you're supposed to do this. It's a rebellion against it. So therefore, laziness becomes the auto-responsiveness of rebellion. I don't want to be accountable to that. I don't want to do that. Therefore, I don't do nothing.
That brings up a huge point because that's the essence of a man. Right?
100%.
Where the rebellion is natural in us, it's ingrained in us, and yet we fight against what we know is right. And then therefore, okay, now you're telling me, hey, working, providing, leading, you know what? Fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah, well, it's easy. I don't want to do what is required of me to do because I have a penis. So therefore, I choose to have a vagina in order not to do what is required of me to do when I have a penis. That's a simple explanation of how easy things have become and how easy the society has made it to be. Okay, check this line, and now you're in this category. Fine. Why? Because it's a free country. Well, motherfucker, is it?
Yeah. Well, the part for me that I struggle with specifically is how the fuck am I going to choose other? How the fuck am I going to choose? Like, I get it if that's what's calling you or whatever the fuck it may be. But the reality of it is that where does that take you? Where does that take your family? Where does that take everybody?
That's the whole point. The direct line is you'll end up in a place that is debt. The indirect line you'll also end up in a place that is dead. We'll all die, but God knows where you're going. At least the direct line, you can look and you can see, okay, the destination ahead. You have no idea where the fuck you're taking yourself in the wonderland. You're going to die anyway. Yeah. The destination is the same, but between now and then, where you're taking yourself, where you're taking your wife, where you're taking your children, where you like this calling of yours, is it a calling or is something that that you called a calling so that you don't respond to what is required of you? So laziness is it's not necessarily not doing anything. Laziness is not doing what is required of us as men and where we need to be accountable. And so the source of the problem is accountability to a boss. Man wants to say, well, you're not the boss of me. And the reality is man was created by God. So God is the boss of man. Those that have a problem with this, because number one, they lived in an environment and experiences that taught them to rebel against God. They grew up in an environment and situation where there was no help. No one showed them who God is. And the interpretation of God was their own recycled experiences in which they are lost and they don't understand the meaning. And yet that's all they have. And it's not, this is not for us to say, hey, man, you don't understand and therefore you don't have God in your life. This is actually an opportunity for us to say, hey, man, give me a chance to at least explain to you that I get it. I get where you are. I was where you were. And here's how we can break it down. And by the way, bro, let's stop the blame game. It has nothing to do with God. It has to do everything with us, with wanting to do whatever the fuck we want to do.
Oh, fuck, you nailed it when you said rebellion. Yep. When you fucking said rebellion, you just basically said the last maybe 30 years of my fucking life. Like you nailed it in the essence of, okay, hey, I don't want to do that because I'm going to rebel against it, or I don't want to be held accountable. So therefore, I'm going to say, fuck you. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, which in turn has always created a problem.
100%. I said it because it's it's not a thing from a book that is being repeated. It's my 30 years as well. I mean, think about a very tactical fucking example, right? I give you the most tactical fucking example inside a rebellion: a diet. you rebel against it. It's not that you're weak. It's not that I'm weak. It's not that we don't have the strength of not fucking eating or not. Like, fuck, I've done 7-day fast, right? So I've proven to myself that I don't give a fuck about not eating. What is it that makes you bring your diet? What is it that makes you bring that discipline? It's the fact that you don't want to be cornered in a place where it says, well, I don't want anybody else telling me what to do, so I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do. That's the main dialogue that takes place all the time in our mind. At some places, we're able to control it really well. In some places, we can. It comes out in form of anger, in form of rebellion, in form of... But in a place of spirituality, when it's an ongoing thing against God, we rebel against God, then we're gonna rebel about everybody else. There's a rebellion about everything else. If we don't get that area right, nothing else will be right in our lives. The one thing that we need to get right is this relationship with God, and this surrendering to the fact that our nature will rebel and that there is a solution for it. That's the one area that we have to get things right. If we don't get that right, everything else in our life will go wrong.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to even thinking that I need inspiration to not be lazy, or I need inspiration to move myself forward or to make this decision. And it's like, if you had God in your life, that is all the inspiration you need.
100%.
You don't need to lean on anything else.
And the only inspiration is God. One. For many, this may not be shit because they don't understand who God is, which means the homework is to know God. Well, how do you know? There's two ways to know God, right? One is God has revealed himself in nature. So you go outside and you look at the window and there's the sun and there's the moon and there's the ocean and there is the cloud and there is you standing in awe, and you cannot deny the existence of a creator. There is. It's painted right in front of you, unless you're some dumbass motherfucker that just want to refuse to see, or you're blind. But we're not talking about that case. We're talking about somebody that literally has, hey man, I don't understand what this God is. Well, okay, step number one is to begin to know him, and that's one, revealed in nature. Step number two, revealed in his word. He has revealed who he is, his character, who he is in the Bible, in his truth word. The only place where you can find who God is, how much of him he has revealed himself to us so that we can know him, is in there. If your ass hasn't got in there to get to know him in there, that's your problem, because most probably you have an idea that, I don't want to get into all these Bible codes. I don't want to get into all these numbers. I don't understand when I read it. I had bad experience with it. All that is nonsense when you look at it, because you're just blaming. This is simple. Shut the fuck up, pick up the Bible and start reading it, and start pausing and start looking for definition of words and start looking for commentaries that will help you understand it. Do whatever it takes to understand what you're reading. That's what you haven't done yet.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to being willing to investigate. You're looking into it and understanding what that is. Doesn't mean you have to truly know, okay, hey, 1 + 1 is 2.
Yep.
No, all you need to know is 1 + 1. That's it.
Correct.
That's it. And once you're on that journey, then you're getting somewhere.
People get caught up in this whole getting into the Bible. They get caught up and they give up in this. They want to look for the 1 and the 2s and the 3s and the 4 and the 5s. They don't exist. They are conceptual. 1 + 1 = always 2. That is true. Mm-hmm. That is mathematically true. Go find 1. Go find 2 in nature. You won't tactically put your hand on number 1 or number 2. It's a concept that is utilized for your understanding. That's the lens that you need to put on your eyes when you get into the Bible. If you get in there for some kind of intellectual exercise and proof, if you think the Bible is there, if you think God is there to prove himself to you, then you got it all wrong. Then you're God.
Yeah, you're fucked. You're fucked. You're fucked. You're gonna be upset the whole time. You're gonna be upset. I didn't say this. I didn't fucking say this. This is not what I said.
Shit.
I mean, you're stuck. Yeah, you're stuck. You're not getting anywhere. Well, and it goes again to the essence of, well, I want to be right. I don't want to be held accountable. I need an answer now. I don't want to wait till I die for an answer. I need a little bit more justification of why I'm here. You know, there always has to be this answer. Well, there doesn't have to be.
And then we start making ones up. We start defining what success is. We start defining what living our best life is. And truly, we forget that, a best life is not defined by wealth. A best life is truly defined by an amazing companion, your wife, and your health. Bro, you got your health, and you got a God-given gift as a wife to you. You're the fucking wealthiest man on planet. You may be blind enough not to see it. There's plenty of guys that got the blessing of their health and that got the blessing of their an amazing wife, and they may not necessarily have a lot of money, but they're given what God has given them. They survive, they eat, they go on vacation, they have a life. They don't have to be the guy with the castle and the cars. They don't have to be that guy. Plus, they don't have the desire to be that guy. They don't have the desire to be. There's an inward gratitude. Ingratitude of what you currently have, especially if you have an amazing wife and especially if you have amazing health. Ingratitude of that is literally making you the blind guy that's going to justify what success is. And that is going to force you on swinging on other people's cock, especially other guys, because you start idolizing these other guys as successful people. And now the model becomes that. That's why I completely disagree this idea of model me. I think it's bullshit. Model me is a process of idolization, and it is used a lot in the personal development industry. And there's a lot of motherfuckers that actually surrender to that and obey with that. And I think we need to do some good work, which is, guys, do not fucking model everybody. I don't give a fuck if Tony Robbins said it. Right? Tony Robbins is an amazing man, but what he says in this particular case is completely fucking wrong. Pick this guy and model it. Be like him. No, you don't need to be like anybody else. You don't idolize another fucking man. I completely disagree with that. I used to be the guy that used to write that down 25 years ago. I still have it in my little notes from Canada. Where I specifically wrote this. I was used to listen to the tapes from Tony. And I used to specifically pick somebody and model them. And for years, my mind was structured around that. And it took 10 years to deconstruct that way of thinking, to truly invite God and put God in the center of my life. With God being in the center of my life, everything else starts making sense. When I get that right, everything else becomes right. If that is wrong, which was, everything else was wrong.
Fuck, to think you model yourself to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
That's really what it takes. That is what it takes
100%
to move forward. That's what it takes not to be lazy. That's what it takes not to find yourself being lost.
100%. Who was Maximilian Mormon? Who was Sam Falsafi 10 years ago? Who was he 20 years ago? And I'm going to have you consider, just because you grow older, it doesn't mean that the previous versions were no more good or that they're not good, that you should never look at that version. That is wrong also.
Yeah.
That is wrong. There was something in that version that was doing an amazing thing, but you were blind enough to fucking see it. Go back and see it, bitch.
Yeah. My wife recently asked me, like, hey, Max, why do you refer yourself as a drug dealer still? That was like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it really modeled on how to manage money.
Yep.
I mean, one way or another, I had my hands on a shitload of fucking money, and it taught me actually how to manage and move money around.
Yep.
It taught me how to be a businessman.
Under pressure,
understanding how to move it and how to use it and how to fucking invest, all that shit.
100%.
If I don't have that background, I don't have that growth.
And that's a perfect example. If you're the guy that has a suit on and that works at Chase Bank right now, and you're the manager of Chase, but 25 years ago you were a crook, right? Or 25 years ago you robbed the place, or you were doing some things. It doesn't necessarily mean that the guy that you were 25 years ago is a piece of shit. you have an opportunity to look back and look at what was wrong. And in what was wrong, what was the opportunity of learning? What were the skills that were required to do the wrong thing? Capture the skills and now grab the skills and do the right thing. Because it's 25 years later, you actually understand what is wrong and right.
Yeah.
But the skills are actually sitting right there inside of you. Yet you go around, look for new skills that other people have, and you become like just, and I'm not saying never learn from others. What I'm saying is this idea of modeling is wrong. But you should constantly learn from others. We learn from each other. There is this, it's a God-given gift to be able to have fellowship and this interoperability and this interpersonality and this, to be able to capture from each other, to be able to have empathy for each other, to know each other's pain, vice versa, somebody knowing our pain and pouring into each other and encouraging. In this model of encouraging, we're always learning from other people because we're not seeing shit that they're seeing inside of us. That is an absolute model of encouragement. What is not backed up here, what I don't stand for is that you pick one person and you laser focus on that person and you mimic exactly what that person does in order to be successful. That is fucking bullshit.
Well, learning from each other versus mimicking each other is going to fuck you. Because if I were to mimic how you have your relationship with your wife, I'm fucked.
100%.
I'm fucked because my wife and your wife are very different. Some things are similar, but very, very different.
Very different.
Same thing. If I were to learn from your fucking mistakes and learn from what worked from it, and then go and take that back to my relationship, very different.
100%.
And I even think of it tactically when I think of it like a business. If I have a business with a bunch of people that are like me, I'm fucked.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Right. And one of the places this has taken place recently is this idea of sex, that, hey, the way I have sex with my wife is a great way. So I'm going to teach this so you can have great sex with your wife as well. That is false. That is false. That is an impossible. There's nothing common in sex between two different fucking couples. Why? Because it's two souls that are united under God. Two souls united under God are united under God differently. They are to have the sexual activity as per God's will, not as per the tips and the tricks that they see in other people.
Yeah, it goes back to the conversation of having that conversation with God. Because my relationship with him is different than yours. Just like our fathers, right? Like our dads, let's say.
Yeah.
Because my relationship with my dad is very different than my brother's relationship with my dad.
100%.
Very different. And so all of us are going to have different relationships. And inside there is going to be men or things that have happened to us that have removed us from it. But understanding that's got to get out of the way.
100%.
We have to wash that shit out of the way.
The one common denominator is God at the center. And God at the center, not because you choose to put God at the center, if he chooses to be in the center of your life. This is the reframe that most motherfucker needs to make. You don't go around and tell God, hey, God, come here and be in the center of my life. That doesn't work that way. God will choose to put himself in the center of your life. And if he does that by grace. And if he's there by grace, what a gift that you and I have received. Now you and I have common ways. Now your father ways, your wife ways. There is commonality around what is my role as a husband? What is my role as a son? And those roles are very common because it's the same instruction given to all of us. The relationship is different, but the work that we do, now we're employed. Now we do the same work.
Yeah.
Now we do the same work, but different, very different relationships. Because now you got another person at the end, does that person have God at the center of their life or no? We don't know. And if it is, things are going to come easier. If not, well, that's our work. That's the target. That's the field. That's the mission. That's the people in our surrounding, in our world. We don't need to worry about the kids in fucking Africa. We care about that person in our world right now that God has put it in there. But for the glory of all what other people will say, it looks way cooler if I go in Africa and I build an orphanage.
Yeah, instead of building an orphanage down the street.
Where
it's at your actual community where you
instead
live.
of taking care of the kids of your brother-in-law, which is a drug addict, and those kids need help.
Yeah, just showing up a little bit more frequently and giving them some direction.
Well, if you do that, then nobody knows. The news doesn't know. The press release doesn't know. Certainly, you can't open a charity around it. You see where this is going?
Yeah. Well, and then that's almost like the willingness to act either comes from the willingness to other people to see it, and it's very hard to act when nobody else is going to see it. It's, like, fuck, if I got to do this work and nobody else is going to see this, nobody's going to like tell me, hey, kudos, great job.
Yeah.
Then fuck, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
Is it really worth it for me to do? And that comes back to where the rebellion comes into play.
Yep.
Well, it's like, fuck it. Nobody's going to recognize that I'm doing shit. Then I'm going to rebel against it. Why do I really need to do this?
100%. We all have the desire and the need to be encouraged by others. That, we all want to be seen in the things that we do. It's just a natural human desire that God has given and put us in our heart. It's a given gift that God has put in our heart. The desire to be seen, the desire to be wanted. Why? Because the need to create fellowship, the need to be with others. The problem is now we don't see God in it. We don't see that this is a God-given gift. So now it becomes, again, another idol, which is, as long as I'm seen, then I feel worthy.
Yeah. I mean, as long as I'm seeing it, I feel worthy. It's the same, almost a reverse conversation back to God. Like, hey, I don't really want to go to God with this because I don't want to feel needy.
That's right.
Like, no, I'm sure he's okay with it. Just go ahead. He likes needy people. That's like, we're like kids.
That's
right?
what he created, needy people.
Exactly. Because, I mean, you think of the kids, right? Think of our kids.
Yeah.
Our kids are real fucking needy.
100%.
Like, especially where mine are at right now. They're wiping ass. Like, they're needy as fuck. So, that being said, if I look at my father and I communicate with him with the essence of neediness, it changes the relationship.
100%.
It truly does. It opens up the door. But if I'm suddenly start to worry about how I'm going to connect to him and how he's going to look at me and who's on the other side, fuck, I'm fucked.
Imagine if your kids would rebel at this age and would say, hey, man, I'm not needy, Max. I don't need you to wipe my ass anymore. I'm going to fucking run around with shit on my ass all day. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. It's a crazy world.
It's fucking, yeah.
It's a crazy world. And imagine as fathers, if sometimes we don't do what is required of us. If the kid's ass is full of shit, then we got to wipe it. Is it pleasant? No. Is it smelly? Yes. Do we really want to do it? No. Are we doing it because it's necessary? Yes. So we're doing it. Why? Because it's our role, right? We are the dad. We are the adult. There's nobody else. I have to do this. So a lot of time we are asked to do very unpleasant things in life. Mm-hmm. Example could be, hey, it's unpleasant to wipe a kid's ass. It's unpleasant to go and talk about God in a place where people don't want to hear about it. Like, this guy again with God. Talk to us about something inspirational. Well, that's the only source of inspiration. Yeah. And people are just a reflection of God's glory. When you get inspired by people, you're truly getting but what God has done in these people. And that's why you're inspired. It's God that inspired you because they are just reflecting God's glory. And there are amazing people on this planet right now that are doing amazing things and that are so inspiring. But they're only inspiring because God chose to demonstrate his glory through them. And you are probably fucking inspiring too, except that you've been too busy inspiring others. And it's time maybe to shine and allow the glory of God to come through your character so that others can be inspired. And that doesn't mean that you have to go necessarily become a professional speaker, have a podcast and like start going on the stages. That could be as simple as encouraging current people in your world. Maybe you're coaching a baseball team, right? And how much of encouragement are you doing for the parents? How much of encouragement are you doing to the kids? Are you going with the same old ways that everybody else did, which is good job, good job, good job? People are tired of fucking hearing good job, man. It doesn't mean shit. When you say good job to a kid, it doesn't move him at all. It doesn't change his life. It's too common. He's heard good job all his life. Good job, good job, good job, good job. Find the words. Find the words to encourage the kid in the baseball thing. Find the words. The words that you have are one of the greatest weapons of inspiration and glorification of God. But when you choose to repeat the same thing over and over because you're fucking lazy, then what you're not doing is that you're not enabling this inspiration that God wants to come through you to come through you. You're blocking it because of laziness. Why are you lazy? Because you have a fucking problem with God. You have a rebellion against God. Because here's what God says. God says, go to work. Because God went to work the first 6 days when he created the planet and the heavens. So literally, God went to work for the first 6. The first thing that God did was work, and then he rested for 1 day. And if we're made out of his image, which we are, and one of the qualities that he inspired in us is the ability to work. He gave us the ability to produce goods and services, and that's a good thing. Increasing production, work, is a good thing because he's given it us. And every time we create something, every time we produce something, we are glorifying him. Why? Because through what we have created, we have actually imitated some of his characteristics. If I've invented this, let's say this mouse, right? If I'm the inventor of this and I look at this, I look at...
And what you allowed to come...
We're good.
Yeah.
The plastic, the metal, everything else is involved. Then I look at this and I'm like, man, this comes from a manufacturer. This comes from raw products. Like you can trace everything back to Earth and be inspired by the amount of human intelligence in the process that came together for this to be possible. And all of it was enabled because God gave us the initial resources on the planet and says, subdue it. Subdue it and have dominion over it. Subdue it. Subdue it meaning that use it for your own benefits. And we did.
Yeah.
We did. We created this mouse, which touches the computer, now moves the computer, and it's for our own benefits. It is amazing. Now, if I can look at this simple creation, I can see the glorification of God here because I can trace it back to all the resources. I can see all the human work that was attached to this, which God has enabled, and I can see all the people that imitated God's character, God's wisdom, God's knowledge, God's sovereignty. They created and they put the rules and the conditions around this mouse. Whoever created this mouse decided on how this mouse will function, and if it malfunction, what will happen to it?
Mm-hmm.
So there are so many things, but the one thing we need to bring our attention on is that when we don't work, we don't imitate one of the main characteristics of God, which is love for others. When you don't work, you don't put your love for others. When you don't encourage people, when you don't do what is required of you, you are not practicing the love for others. And love for others opens a whole new service chapter, right? It's all about serving others. So it doesn't matter what you do today. It really doesn't matter what business you have. Your purpose is very clear. Your purpose is to love others, to serve others. Everybody wants to help for some reason, but everybody wants to tie it in exactly to a business, to a website, to some kind of identity that proves to them that, oh, yeah, now I'm doing what is God's required of me. No, man, you're doing what God is requiring of you because you're glorifying him through imitating his characters. One of the main characteristics is the love for others. And if you're in a business of serving, or goods, you create goods that serve, then by default, you are also glorifying God. Except it's just, you've never looked at it this way.
Yeah.
You've been lost. You've been looking for a purpose, and all along it was here.
Yeah. I mean, that in itself is the actionable item, right? Like is to find the purpose of the love that you're giving and giving love to others. And then really, you said it in the beginning, if you're not in the fucking word or you haven't really started diving into it, your actionable item is just go read it. Just go look at it. Go see what it looks like. Get inside the Bible. Don't be scared. It's okay. He loves you. So beautiful conversation today, Coach. Thank you. If this actually resonated with you, go to warriorweeknow.com. There's plenty of episodes on there. Also, too, if this has sparked you and you're interested, go to warriorweek.com and apply for Warrior Week. And then lastly, share this with someone that you feel is stuck and fucked and lazy in regards to their connection and is rebellion and in the middle of a rebellion. So, and then lastly, follow us on fucking Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to this, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you.
Quit on your wife, quit on your kids, quit on your desires. It's okay to be okay. Manually putting the fucking blindfold on yourself. Tonight, you're gonna find out what power is.